They approach the running rail on the turn towards the home straight, and the leader...
I met you at a dinner party. How would you introduce yourself?
Oh, I suppose I'd say, well, I'm Barney Curley and I live in Newmarket. I train horses and I back them for a living.
Do you call yourself a professional gambler?
You could say that.
Do you?
Well, I would like to link, well, I would be a professional gambler. I have no other means of income. Every Monday morning, I have to find £6,000 to keep the show on the road. And I have to find that out of gambling.
Irishmen often express an animosity towards England. You're an Irishman who's chosen to live here. What have you given to England and what has it given you in return?
Well, I'm afraid I have given England very little. Well, I think England has given me a lot. You know, I can't speak too highly of English people. They have gone out of their way to try and help me. You know, I had a large bet a couple of years ago that I'd train 10 winners before Christmas. And in our business, the ground is very important. And I didn't have many horses, so I couldn't afford to be running horses that had no chances. And I must say that the clerks of the courses kept me better informed than when Michael Fish is about the weather. Lord, lay your hand on my head and lead me through the day.
How much was that gamble worth?
I think I might have netted something like 200,000. And then we fall and all of a sudden how I lost it.
What's your relationship with the bookies?
I think they would fear me. There's no doubt about that there. But at the same time, I think they would respect me. Respect me in the sense that I've never been involved in fixing races.
Have they ever turned down a bet of yours?
You know, the big firms will not allow me to bet with them. All they want to do is lay the mugs. If you're a winner, you get your account closed. They're there to take as much out of racing as they can and put nothing back in. What they put in is pin money.
That's the levy.
The levy. We're getting pin money. I run a stable that's different from other stables. You know, I employ people there. I pay them more than anyone else. I'm very loyal to them. I expect them to be loyal to me. For example, that if they see a horse of mine working well, that they don't tell anyone. And if they do tell anyone, I just leave their bags at the door and sack them.
Barney, you are a professional gambler as well as someone who trains horses. How do you stop going over the edge and becoming a compulsive gambler?
Well, I have to train myself. You know, I have to pick out and say, you know, I go to the races and I say to myself, now, if that is 3 to 1, I'll back it. I might pick out 2 horses. If that's 6 to 4, I'll back it. If the odds are shorter, I just have to train myself not to do any business.
You'll walk away from a bet?
I will walk away. I could go for a week, go racing every day and not have a bet if I didn't think I was getting value for money.
And that's the difference between a professional and a compulsive gambler?
Well, a compulsive gambler has to be pitied, you know, he has no chance. All right, put him back in the box.
This morning when we were on the gallops, I noticed that your transporter had the inscription, unencumbered by baggage. It's a very strange phrase. What does it mean?
It's a book. It was written by a Jesuit priest. And I think if we all read it, I think we'd be a lot better human beings after reading it. Basically, it means, you know, that in this modern world that people are given over too much to accumulating wealth, property, and all these material possessions, whereas they are not the source of happiness at all.
Barney, you spend hours studying the form in order to beat the bookies, in order to create cash. How can you say that you're not after wealth? Presumably you feel uncomfortable living here.
No, I don't. I really enjoy living here. I'm now, you know, I'm not young anymore, and I suppose I'm looking for a little bit more comfort.
Do you have anything in mind for today?
I think I fancy the French horse in the July Cup. She was very impressive at Ascot. That was over a mile and she's coming back to 6 furlongs. But I think she has plenty of class. And I'd probably back her. I like the trainer and I like the rider. They won the race last year. They have a good shot this year.
Why do you do it?
I like to be good. You know, I'm good at it. And let's say to advise any of my family to go into it, I would say under no circumstances.
You wouldn't allow your children?
No, no. I would say it's impossible. She'll probably do for me.
Big one or a little one?
I think reasonably big. Back her to win, maybe. 50 or 60,000. I hope.
900, 940, 980, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300, 1,400.
There have been very, very wealthy people from all over the world, successful businessmen, etc., who have come into the horses, have been in it for a year or two, done their books at the end of 2 years and said, hello, this is enough. We have the best horses in the world here, but it's no thanks to the locals. It's the Arab money that bought the horses. And they don't mind doing 100 million, 200 million.
What happens when the oil goes?
Good night racing.
They're having a 14 star. 33 to 1 in there. 14 star. 11 to 1 platoon. 11 to 1 without.
Barney, what is it exactly that the bookies are trying to do to racing that you so object to?
They're taking far too much money out of racing. I call them daytime burglars.
502 on the bell. 11 of all of them.
I see people who have been very successful at racing. I've watched them and I think they've just overstayed their welcome a little bit. And successful gamblers have ended up skint. I would hope that I would be big enough to say I'm not at my best in a few years' time. I'm packing in when I'm in front.
You know, I don't particularly like the race. I might back an outsider at maybe 8 or 10 to 1 maybe to win. You know, something like 20,000 to 2 or 20,000 to 2,400.
So you back it each way or just to win?
No, I just back it to win.
Have you laid the bet or are you thinking about it?
I'm thinking about it. I'm just waiting until I see them going down.
That's important.
It is, yeah.
For most people, can betting pay?
No, you can't make betting pay.
25,000 to what? 20,000 to 1,200. 20,000 to 2,400. Yeah. Well, what is that? That's to win 25 grand. 8 to 1. 10 to 1. That's just 2,500. All right. Okay. All right.
You could not make it pay. You could not make it pay. You're far better to say, I'm going to have a 50p Yankee every Saturday, pick out 4 horses and let it, you know, let it stick at that. You have no chance to make, you know, to make betting pay. None.
How is it then that you can support a stables, a nice house, a wife, children, yourself, and a Mercedes?
Right. Well, you know, when I was younger, Georgie Best was the best footballer in the world. He had a great talent. I think I have a talent too.
Inside the 3 now, and it's Teamster on the outside with Fanatical on the near side. Coming into the picture now, Basm, but Rita produced on the far side, running on pretty strongly. Then left Musa Marie behind the boy, well back and Ivy too. Out last. Inside the 2 now, it's Fanatical and Teamster tackled by Rita. Behind the middle, Basm pulled on for an effort, but Rita out a little wider then.
Barney, you looked so unhappy when the winner came in.
People say that, you know. People say, you know, you never smile. Well, aren't you better being yourself instead of putting on one of these false smiles or whatever?
Well, really, it's only a job to me. You know, I'm at this nearly every day of the week. And, it's just another winner.
When you come home, does your wife not say to you, did you make money today?
Maybe once every 6 months. I think she has confidence in me not to lose the place. I suppose my best friend outside racing is a priest. I have nothing but admiration for him. He's given 25 years of his life, you know, helping other people.
What does he feel about the sort of life you're leading now as a professional gambler?
I suppose deep down they think, what a waste of a life.
Are you unhappy about that?
I sometimes think about it. I sometimes think, what am I doing? I'm going out, I'm betting horses every day, and what am I really doing?
I understand that you offered Mother Therese your help.
I did.
And that she turned you down.
She did.
Why?
I would think that Mother Teresa wouldn't like this business of gambling. You know, she's a very simple woman.
Now, this morning I told you that I fancied the French filly Golden Opinion, and I thought that 2 to 1 would be a reasonable price about her. Now, there's a racecourse rumour that she's been injured coming over on the plane. So she drifted out to 3 to 1, and I went in and had £10,000 on her, 30,000 to 10. I never listen to racecourse rumours. Let's hope it's wrong.
You claim that you don't like the media coverage you get.
You know, I feel embarrassed, really. You know, when the BBC rang up, they said, well, we're doing this program and we have a heart surgeon on it. Well, you know, a heart surgeon is a man who saves lives. I feel, up against them, I feel so small, so inadequate.
You claim that you have an inner calm. We've seen you acknowledge a God this morning. What happens when things go wrong? Do you blame your God?
No, well, I never take my God into racing or anything like that there. You know, I would never pray for winners or things like that. I do believe there's a God, and I believe that someday I'd have to meet him.
Is it true that you were training to be a monk?
I was with the Jesuits doing philosophy. I was there to about, I was 21. I think it taught me a lot.
A bit unlucky. I think she should have won with the run.
You know, it taught me the values of life.
And yet I've heard you talk about life as a jungle.
Life isn't a jungle, but the race course is a jungle. You know, it's big dogs eat small dogs. But life isn't a jungle. Life can be very satisfying. Can't beat peace of mind, you know.
And you have that?
Yeah.
Did you come from a wealthy background that enabled you to get into racing?
Well, I remember growing up in Herbertstown, County Fermanagh, and just going back to swimming pools. I remember my mother carrying the water into a sort of a big bath from the river to wash us all on a Saturday night. So I don't think I came from a very wealthy background. No. I suppose you could say I'm a loner in a sense. You know, I back my own opinion. I never listen to anyone. And that's it. What else could I do? What else could I get a living at? You know, I'm now 50 years of age. What else could I get a living in? I know racing inside out. I know it from A to Z. Who would employ me?
Barney Curley, thank you very much for sharing your day with us.
In 1975, Barney Curley attempted one of the greatest betting coups in horse racing history.
Yellow Sam was an enormous feat of planning and organisation.
The prize was around €2 million in today's money.
It must be the greatest scheme that's ever been staged.
For every coup that comes up, 50 fail.
Well, I was a reasonably big gambler at the time, and all gamblers get bad rocks. The trick is to try and survive them. I owed the bookmakers about 12,000. It was a lot of money at the time. And it was my business betting horses. Owing the bookmakers meant you couldn't go to the races. So it just stopped me betting. So I came up with this plan. There was only one way to do it, was to win big. Rightly or wrongly, I always had great confidence in myself, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. I could see deeply how you could trick the bookmakers. You do get a buzz out of hoodwinking the big bookmakers. There's a buzz there, no doubt about it.
Barney Curley, a gambling trainer, was pretty notorious.
You know, he's a gambler, he doesn't tell us nothing. You know, is he cheating, is he not cheating? The bookmakers hate him.
He definitely flirted with the edges of the rules of racing.
If you saw Barney striding towards you, the first thing you tried to work out, what's he trying to back?
In the world of horse racing, Barney Curley became famous for his superbly planned gambles. But back in 1975, his fortunes were far from good.
The gambling wasn't going very well at the time, and everything I'd done, you know, was down the tube.
He owed the bookmakers over £10,000, a massive sum at the time. But he decided to have one more bet before throwing in the towel.
I have to do something here. I have to go for the big time.
As racing gamblers, he's clearly, in many ways, in a league of his own. He was an organizer and he was a planner.
The first step in planning the coup was to approach his trainer, Liam Brennan.
Liam Brennan was an excellent trainer. Not very many people knew what he was doing. And I learned a lot from him. Employ people who you can trust 100%.
Barney expected loyalty and he expected silence.
Barney had a collection of horses. He needed to know, could any of them deliver a victory to get him out of his predicament?
I asked, do I have a horse that would pull off a job? And he says, you have only one horse at the moment. He's no world beater, but he's well handicapped, and he'd probably win. That's how we came to pick Yellow Sam. I called him Yellow Sam because my father's nickname was Yellow Sam. He had a sort of a sullen complexion or whatever it was, you know, bit yellow. So I called it after my father.
But long before Barney could plan a gambling coup at the racetrack, he started life as the oldest boy in what would become a family of 6 children in peaceful Irvinstown in Fermanagh, Northern Ireland.
I remember as a 4 or 5-year-old walking to school on my bare feet. You always saved your shoes for Sunday, that they looked well at Mass. Our basic food was poundies, mashed potatoes, butter, scallions. You had porridge in the morning. It was a bonus if you got some meat on a Sunday.
Things were scarce, and my mother never talked about not having any money. We never looked for anything because we knew that my mother couldn't afford it, maybe.
My mother was a wonderful woman, a very thoughtful woman, a giver. I picked up a lot from my mother. You know, she was very charitable. We had a little shop in Irvinstown, a little grocer's shop. I know for a fact that my mother gave half of it away to the marginalised.
Granny Farry came to live with us. She probably bought us things that my mother couldn't afford to buy us, you know. We just loved Granny Farry, and Barney especially loved her because she would have given Barney the odd sixpence to go to the bookie office, you know, to have an odd wee bet.
Like some other men do.
We had a game, and there were little horses and jockeys on them, and you wound the thing up to see what horse was going to win. We all had wee bets on them, you know, matches, not money, matches.
I would describe it as a happy childhood. Don't think it was very affluent, but, you know, it was happy. Went to boarding school at 11, wasn't a scholar, didn't do very well. I don't know how I got into the boarding school. I often think, did my father ever pay the fees? In 1956, he was training greyhounds. I think he owed about £1,200, something like that. And he lined this one up in Celtic Park. So he had about £200 on the dog. This was the last shot. Well, you see, doping at the time, you know, they weren't very clued into doping. I'd say he had bits of the autumn bomb in him. It was a sprint in Celtic Park. I think it was over 375 yards. And the dog was going so fast into the first bend, he tumbled over and broke his back. And I can remember to this day him carrying this dog up in his arms. And he lost everything. And he says, "That's it, the party's over. No way back."
Having lost everything, Barney's dad was forced to seek work in England and pulled his eldest boy Barney out of school to join him.
Of course, I didn't like school anyhow. And then on the other way you'd say, no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. Once they heard your accent, you didn't get in. Well, eventually we got a place with an old lady and she had about 5 or 6 dogs. And the smell in the place, you know what I mean? It was... We worked in the petrochemicals factory in Manchester for 12 months. You had to be up at 5:30 to get the bus out for 7 o'clock work. We used to do 2 shifts a day, 7 to 2, 2 to 10. Not many days off, because all the days off we had, we'd worked them to get the money, you know. And then we sent the money home to my mother to pay off the debt. You know, working 2 shifts at 16 years of age, 6 days a week was tough. I think it made a man of me.
After 18 months working in a factory in Manchester, Barney returned home to Fermanagh.
I had a notion that I wanted to become a priest. I thought I could be a priest. I spent 3 or 4 years at it. Did philosophy, theology.
In those days, in Catholic homes, you would have been expected to produce a nun or a priest out of the family, you know?
I didn't make it. I don't think I had a vocation. That is one thing that if I had my life to live over again, I would go down that path, because it taught me a lot.
Barney left the seminary, and as a Catholic in 1960s Northern Ireland, his opportunities were limited.
He started out training to be a Jesuit priest, having had a good education. So normally you would expect somebody like him to go into the professions, but at that time Catholics found it difficult to get work in the professions. He wouldn't be accepted. He was a very staunch Catholic himself and came from a Catholic family, and that meant a lot at that time.
Hard them days for Catholics to get jobs, like, you know. Just any jobs came up in the council, on the roads, like, you know. That's the only jobs you got, like, you know.
There wasn't no work at all, so that's more or less why we started playing together. And we started the band in 1961. 1963, Barney came back on the scene. And he comes over to the hall we were practicing, and if you've got a manager, it's fine. No, well, just do your own thing. Yes, I've got one now. He says. That's where it started.
You know, and these shoe bands played every village hall in Ireland. You'd have sometimes 1,500, 1,600 in these halls.
There was 60 women and men inside, like, and the minute the music is out, jiving away, and enjoying it. Like, you could have been Belfast on Saturday night, and you could have been in the County Limerick or County Cork, could have been Killarney,
Leopardstown, Killarney, Clonmel.
Up and down Ireland, like, you know.
I think I knew somebody in every parish in Ireland. Then I was doing a bit of smuggling at the same time. Ireland at the time was very much no tax, no VAT, no nothing. Carry on, put the money in your back pocket. The big thing at that time was tyres. We in the north had what you call Mitchell and X. Down the south, they were like gold dust. You buy a tyre maybe for £3 in the north, and you'd have no trouble getting 20 or 25 pounds for it in the south. A lot of profit. So I got to know people through that too that you could trust.
He wouldn't have been shy, but he was very shrewd. He would have been paving the way for other things. There's always something else.
As the 1960s progressed, tensions rose in Northern Ireland.
I was living in Northern Ireland, and one night there was a bomb in Omagh, and I got blown up against the wall.
Soon Barney's cross-border activities became fraught with danger.
Shortly after that, I was coming from Dublin. This light in the centre of the road stopped me. It was from a very brave British Army officer. Up on the hill was the IRA, down on the road was the British Army. And then all hell broke loose. I foolishly thought that if I was lying in the car, nothing could hit me. Later I discovered bullets just would go through it like butter. So I thought to myself, this is not for me. This is not the life I want to lead. I had announced I was stopping the show bands and going gambling. I remember my father saying to me, "Oh," he said, you know what I mean, "are you mad? They've skinned the whole of Ireland," he says, "and that you're not going to be an exception." He says, "You're not going to succeed where they failed. They were smart people." I said, "I'm going. I feel confident I can do it." And that was it. Off I went. Stopped the bands and went betting every day.
Having become a professional gambler, some big wins gave Barney a fearsome reputation with the bookmakers and helped him move his young family to a stud farm in Ashford, County Wicklow. But the costs associated with his new stud farm and a run of bad bets soon left him struggling financially.
So I thought to myself, I have to do something here. There's no use in getting small money. I have to go for the big time. Liam Brennan had him trained to the minute. We had a lot better horses there, but none as well handicapped as Yanosan. His form was very poor.
He'd run 9 times, never finished better than 8th. In failure with horse racing, you go down in the handicap.
The idea of handicap is to give horses different weights as to equalize their chance.
In order to get the participants to have exactly the same chance in a race, you equalize their abilities by weight rather than by distance.
With Yellow Sam carrying less weight than the other horses and trained particularly for a race that suited him, he had a better chance than the bookies could ever know. Barney's next job was to pick a jockey perfect for the race.
It's just like a lot of people in Ireland, brought up on a farm where obviously you got your cows and your sheep and pigs and horses. Once you're bitten by the bug, you want to be with horses.
He was one of the best around at that time. Very, very good amateur. He won the champion novice at Cheltenham. It's very hard to get jockeys that keep their mouth closed. Most of them can't help themselves. And you know, the bookmakers are only looking for one lead, just one lead, and the game is over.
Yellow Sam's form was terrible. He ran maybe 20 times in the 2 years and he never got near the frame. It looked like a very, very moderate horse. And I'm thinking, well, this horse wouldn't win a duck race.
He needed ideal conditions. A bad race, fast ground, but he was a very good jumper. So I said, right, we'll pick out a race, leave the rest to me. So I closed myself off from everybody and plotted it. I started off with my map of Ireland. I'd take a town and I'd say, who do I know in this town? I knew more about the people in Ireland than probably the police knew. I just sat in my room, put marks on all the towns and cities. Galway and Cork, Waterford, Limerick. Who do I know there? I had to study the form and look at the races. It took me about 6 weeks, day and night. I had my pulse on everything. Because then I had to go and see them and see where the betting shops were.
If Barney had a horse running, bookmakers actually wouldn't take a bet from him.
What he needed was people supposedly not connected with him to place bets for him in the betting shops.
So I knew if I could get people who I could trust, I was in business.
He managed to recruit, directly or indirectly, 300 people all over Ireland.
And we had anchor men, the main drivers, maybe 10 or 12 of them. We just said to these people, look, we're going to pull off something. Get yourself ready.
The vast majority of bets 50 years ago were struck on SP, starting price, which is the price at the off that's taken from the racecourse.
They're up. And the first to show in front towards the stand side is Marvellous Tackle.
Well, the price was determined by the bookmakers on track. Whatever the price was at the off, that price was the price that was related to the betting shops, and that's the price they would pay out on.
And the main thing was to keep the starting price up. You know, that was where the bonus ball was. If you could get a horse that represents 2 to 1, if you could get him at 20 to 1, that's a big achievement. You have to get the value. If you don't get the value, you'll sink. And the ideal race course was Bellewstown.
Bellewstown, we say, it's situated in County Meath. It's probably one of the highest points in County Meath. They say that the High Kings of Ireland, who were based in Tara, came to Bellewstown to race their horses.
I picked out Bellewstown because I was often at Bellewstown racecourses and I knew the only connection was a phone outside the track.
For the coup to work, it was crucial that the bookies at the racetrack did not find out that Barney's people around the country were suddenly and inexplicably placing bets on this unfancied horse.
If they could get through on the phone, the bookmakers in Cork and Limerick and Waterford, the price would keep tumbling down. The most important was the telephone. If you blocked the telephone, you were in business.
The coup was planned on the basis that the money would not get back to the racecourse to affect the starting price.
I never hated bookmakers, you know what I mean? Some of my best friends were bookmakers. Sean Gray, the greatest bookmaker that I have seen in my career.
So, £60 a 6, so 99. So, £50 a 5, so 700. Leapfrog, £2.5 a 1.
He was a stumbling block. I thought if he got wind of it, there'd be trouble. Probably owed him a few quid too, you know what I mean? So I said, I'm not going that well. I'm going to do something in about 10 days' time, and I want you not to interfere. And he said, listen, if you do any of my betting shops, I'll hang you. I said, look, none of your betting shops will be done. And that was it. I owed the bookmakers about 12,000. So I came up with this plan. Get a large amount of money on a horse, but stop the price coming down.
The plan was to hit 300 betting shops in the few minutes before the race was off. You've got to have the right horse and you've got to get the betting rights. But that was what's so difficult about it, getting both things right.
For every coup that comes up, 50 fail. There's a huge failure rate.
He scraped together the 15,000 to back Yellow Sam. It was his last few shillings, and not many of us would do that, would they? I certainly wouldn't.
I don't think I could have recovered. You know, if the horse got beat, that would have been the end. Got up as usual and drove towards the racecourse. I'm not really a nervous creature. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I'd give it my best shot. That's it.
Bellewstown was the most primitive place you could think of. There was a stand which was just a few steps and a kind of hay shed. It was windswept. You were completely cut off from the rest of the world.
My late father, who worked as a butcher in Drogheda, used to bring me on the Wednesday. So people came to Bellewstown, not so much for the racing, but so much for, you know, meeting people, and it's a very, very social place to come.
The bookmaking was designed that it could set up in a field. All we had was a pole, you tied it up to a rail, a bag, and what we called a slate. You chalked up the prices and you howled and you gave a ticket.
There was a phone box on the way. I think it was an Ashburn. And I had to make a couple of phone calls to sort of say, it's on, you'll hear, and had to have to.
On the morning of the race, what they did was they sent a band of people all over the country with these envelopes. They didn't know what horse they were backing.
I'm a great believer in that if you put someone up to ride your horse, you have to have faith in them. Michael Furlong was somebody who you'd have a lot of faith in, a great horseman.
Arrive at the track. So you're there maybe an hour before your race time. You don't want people stressing themselves, and you don't want to be stressed yourself by arriving at the last minute. Go in, change into your colours.
I had a betting shop in Parnell Street at the time, and I was working on track. In that particular race, we would have been following Sean Graham. Sean Graham had a prominent pitch in the ring in Bellewstown, and we had lesser pitches, so it was folly the leader. That's the way it worked in the old days. They followed the strong bootmaker, the people with a strong opinion, priced their board, then we followed. So I've got to go the same price as Sean Graham, and then the guy next to me is going to have to do the same thing, and it works right down along the line.
The horse kept drifting. He made it open to 12 to 1.
Then Sean Graham goes a bigger price, he puts a 40 in, we all follow. It's folly the leader. Sean Graham goes 60 in, we'd all go 60 in. Sean Graham goes 20, we all go 20.
I'd have been happy at 12 to 1. Getting 20 to 1 was a bonus. So you rang the anchor man at 2:30 and said, right, the name of the horse is Yellow Sam. On you go. So the anchor men rang their 3 or 4 friends. You know, A would ring, B would ring, C. You know, you just rang them and then they rang everybody else.
They had to get out and they had to start putting fivers on that horse in every betting shop they saw. They couldn't put any more. If money starts coming for a horse, they will say, hang on, this could be live, and they slash the price. So you had to do it small enough to create no attention.
So I headed on towards the racecourse, but I didn't go to the racecourse. I went round to a family called Brogan's. Anne Brogan was a great friend of mine. Just drove into the yard and said, look, Anne, I'm trying to do something big. I said, I don't want to take my car. Everybody knew my car. So she drove me up to Bellewstown.
Jockeys every day of the week ride horse they never saw before. Because I'd never seen this horse in my life. You depend on your trainer to give you 1 or 2 little insights into him. But Liam was very straightforward. He said, look, don't be too far back, but if you're not happy with the pace, you can increase it.
At that time, the racecourse was along the side of the road. So you could park at the side of the road and walk on over into the racecourse and into the centre of the track.
You could get hundreds of pounds on in betting shops in towns all across Ireland. The idea was to get the money on, spread it right across the betting shops and keep the racecourse market completely free of it.
If the money had got back from the off-course bookmakers, the horse probably would have been started a 6 to 4 chance. Maximum 2 to 1. The big one was the phone. So I got my friend Benny O'Hanlon to get into the phone box and pretend that there was an aunt of his in Drogheda Hospital, very poorly.
He was apparently on the phone to about a sick relative.
1 minute she was about to pass on and the next minute she'd okay. You know, there's something about Irish people that have that thought for people that are in trouble and dying, etc.
When I went into the ring, just before the off, Liam said to me, this fellow will win. And I'm thinking in amazement, I said, he can't, he's not good enough. He'll win, he said.
I would tell the jockey, I'd say, look, this has been working really well at home and I think you've got a great chance. I wouldn't say you will win because I don't know what all the other horses are doing.
There's quite a lot of good riders in that race. It wasn't a gimme race, you know.
The horse I was riding that day was Silver Road. I think it was the first horse I ever rode a winner on. Of course, I went there hoping that we'd win. Like every young lad who wants to be the next Lester Piggott, and I was anything but a Lester Piggott in style, but yeah.
It was always an enjoyable time for me when I was riding a horse I'd never ridden before. That stage where you canter down to the start. A horse will actually tell you a lot. A good moving horse on good ground, it's a lovely feeling.
Now, in the meantime, the bookies' offices knew that this bet was down. They couldn't contact the track. The phone was engaged.
Everybody's going mad. The bookmakers are going mad because they're trying to ring back this money, but they couldn't get through because Benny's on the phone and his aunt is dying in Drogheda Hospital.
If Benny hadn't been in the phone box, some betting shop proprietor would have phoned the racecourse. Get me Terry Rogers, get me Billy Mulvaney. The buckets of money for this horse knocked the price. That would have been a disaster for Barney.
20 minutes in the box, the money didn't get back. This horse started at 20-1.
With the race about to start, Barney's plans had worked out perfectly. But there was still plenty that could go wrong.
The big danger would have been if somebody had been doing what we were doing. Those amateur races, they were notorious for trainers lining up a horse for them.
Things go wrong in a race. Anything go wrong.
That was a 2.5 mile race, so that was probably 12 jumps he had to negotiate.
A good jumpers will fall occasionally. You see it every day if you watch racing enough. Good fancied horse to do forward.
I would choose to do it on the flat because you have no chance of falling, whereas you do if you're going to jump some hurdles.
In those days, there was no big screens. You had binoculars, and you went up to the highest point you could to watch the race. And all the bookmakers tended to gather in a cluster.
I was hiding in the middle of the course. Once you're not there, they think the horse is not trying or is not fancy.
Coming into line for the second race in the car, the Mount Hanover Amateur Riders Handicap Hurl. They're off. Stands first time Southland is disputing the lead with Philippine Hill. Yellow Sand is just in behind them with Glen Allen.
I was going as well as I expected to be going. I wasn't worried at any stage about not winning.
Southland and Philippine Hill continue to share the lead ahead of Yellow Sand.
The way he ran, he was up there. All he did was stay anyhow.
You feel like you're giving the horse a lovely, smooth ride. You're doing things right. You're on the inside or you're saving ground. Nobody's interfering with you. The others don't even notice I'm improving my position and I'm going well.
I can remember hearing this horse coming up my outside, where there was Michael Furlong absolutely pulling a roller. And I'm thinking, where did this thing come out of?
And Yellow Sand takes up the running, changing the order. He's gone on.
And I tried to stay with him, but I couldn't.
The race was unfolding probably to my advantage. I'm the one going well. I can afford to press the button now a bit and put the squeeze on the lads who will begin to niggle behind me.
Second last, Yellow Sand, Silver Road is second now.
Well, I was there at the second last, watching them with my binoculars, heading up towards the winning line. Because then they raced away from us, and you never know what happens.
This horse was so far ahead of the rest of us.
The last, Yellow Sand up and over, a superb leap by Yellow Sand.
Quite happy once he jumped the last.
Now is the time to win this race.
As the race in the closing stages, still the 20-1 shot, Yellow Sand, the outsider of the field.
But you don't win it until you get to the lollipop.
Anne Brogan, who was with me, says he's won.
We were all just amazed that this other horse, Yellow Sam, complete outsider could just turn the tables.
So he was an easy winner, in my opinion.
Bellewstown was his Grand National. I was thinking of what the hell are the stewards going to think about this? Because they could have very well, you know, at that time they could do anything. They could have disqualified him or something, you know. That was what's uppermost in my mind.
When Yellow Sam won, we all then would walk down back to our pitches, about 20 bookmakers. And I remember the late Billy Mulvaney saying, mark my words, some bookmaker somewhere got hit with that.
When we came in off the track, you could sense there was something wrong. The next thing I see was 2 or 3 of the bookies coming over towards Liam Brennan, wanted an explanation. After the race, you go in, you saddle, you weigh in, you draw the correct weight, change your clothes, shower, and get out of there. Liam said to me, you just weigh in now, don't bother changing, and go.
I had no idea of a coup at the races that day. No idea.
And it's only afterwards the story really broke out that we realised what was after going on, and it was a major coup at the time.
Came back to Brogan's, had a cup of tea and went home. And then I probably would have had my dinner and went to bed. There'd be no celebrations. You know, I'm not a great man to celebrate, you know what I mean?
He won £300,000 in 1975, which I think was equivalent of 2 million in today's money.
You know, the bookmakers were terrible. You know, they paid in single pound notes. You know, they were up to here. It was like monopoly money.
In the end, Barney picked up close to £300,000 from his day in Bellewstown, and with it, he decided he was going to buy a new house.
And I think I had Mullingar bought in a month. My father never said well done or anything like that, you know. Typical Irish father. He used to always criticise me and say I was a waster and all sorts. I think deep down he admired me, because when the will was made, when he died, not that he had that much, but I got a lot.
After paying his debts, he bought a mansion at Mullingar, but then decided he wanted to come over to England. Rather than just get an estate agent to sell it, he thought he'd raffle it.
When he decided to sell his mansion near Mullingar, he didn't call in an estate agent like you or I might do, but he held a £1 million lottery.
Barney Curley's home in County Westmeath, a house with 140 years of history behind it.
It was quite a major thing at the time about this guy raffling his huge property.
About 9,000 tickets in the drum, and at £200 each, that comes to 1.8 million, a profit of nearly £1 million on what Mr. Curley paid for the house 8 years ago.
It was a very successful raffle.
Were you optimistic all the time that it was going to come out as well for you?
I think I was, yeah.
The people who won the raffle got the house, but then he was arrested for running an illegal lottery, went to court. He was threatened with being jailed.
The judge decided that the fine should be 5,000 Irish punts, as it was in those days, and Barney looked at him, paused and said, I'll pay 10,000. And he gave 10,000 to charity.
From that, he was able to move to Newmarket and buy a stables.
You may well remember the story of what seemed a crazy gentleman who raffled his house. The house was worth £500,000. He's said to have taken around 2 million. No one then thought he was crazy. Barney Curley.
I was a young boy, I can't remember, 16, 17 or 18. Around that time, I was still apprentice. On my weekends, I went out, and I came back on a Saturday night, and I put the telly on, and it was this program called After Dark.
I just tell them, I make no secret of it. If you ever talk about a horse out of this yard, you're sacked.
I was fascinated by him, and I thought, oh God, I'd love to meet this guy. It wasn't long after that I went to the Newmarket sales, and there he was standing a bit away from me at this Trilby. Before I even said anything, he said, hello, Lanfranco. So I thought, God, how does he know me?
Barney was a very important influence on Frankie's career. Barney's role was to pick Frankie up when he was down and to stop him getting too far ahead of himself when he was flying high.
I'm not saying that I'm tame now, but I was pretty wild when I was young. When I was going off the rail a bit, he used to ring me up for a game of snooker. He said, listen, you're only good at one thing, riding, so forget about everything else and just stick to it. We actually went to a retreat in Galway together. And it was pretty quiet during the day, everybody was praying, and we went to a local pub to have some supper, and a couple of Guinness later, the guitars were out. Completely different than what I thought. I got married, he was one of the ushers. He's also godfather to my son. So I was very lucky that I had him as a father figure. Not just in horse racing, in life in general,
Barney had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, Charlie, who he called Chuck. He started working for Barney and was, although Barney was a very hard taskmaster, he once threatened to sack him. Sadly, he was killed in a road accident when he was 18.
My son got killed in 1995, and I was at a low, because he was my dream.
When his son died, Charles, I think he definitely lost a piece of his heart.
He had so many dreams for Charlie. To think that he was killed at 18, that was a very hard time for Barney. Really hard time now, and he was in a real deep depression. I think after Charlie was killed, it changed him altogether,
After the death of his son, a visit from a priest made Barney reassess his life.
I had all the toys. Big cars, big houses, big ego. Didn't work for me. I never was content. I wanted, if I had £1, I wanted £2, and if I had, a good horse, I wanted 2 good horses. Always striving. And I looked at him. He didn't have $1, and he was a lot happier than me. When my son got killed, he says to me, why don't you come out to Zambia? Eventually I agreed, and I went out there for about 3 weeks. The country was riddled with AIDS, and it was an awful sight. I'll never forget it. These young men, with their nothing here, women, you know what I mean? It was a frightening situation, frightening to go in there to the houses and to see these poor young people dying. I remember one day, this young father and mother that had been about 23 or 24 and had twins, about 5 or 6 months old. I said to the nun in charge, what are the chances of their father and mother living? She said, 0. They'll be dead, definitely in 2 months' time. Seeing some terrible sights, terrible altogether.
he decided that, he wanted to give something back to the world.
So he formed DAFA, Direct Aid for Africa.
We're different from other charities. Every penny that we get goes straight there.
A lot of money went into this, but it was all money that he personally donated himself, or his donors had given to him.
We have everything in this world. We are blessed, and we got lovely families, and you gotta help the other. Unfortunately, the people are not so fortunate in life.
They built clinics, they built hospitals, they built schools.
They took a very basic school and developed it into an enormous one. I think it ended up a school for 1,500. And also that the children arrived at school without any food. Barney made sure that they had food to eat.
What he achieved over there was remarkable. He made a huge difference to the lives of thousands and thousands of people.
What can I do here? Watch football? Watch racing? Best thing ever I've done in my life.
Barney was happiest going to Africa. It was his life. Up until he died.
Yeah, I spoke to him. He said, "Listen, I'm in peace with the Lord. I'm ready to go." And this is the last few days. He touched my heart, and he always be remembered for me.
I often think about dying, and I'm lying there dying. And I would never think of a horse. In my mind would be the hospital, the schools. I always had this opinion, we're just passing through. Try and do your best. Try and help others. I wouldn't like on my tombstone, he was a great gambler. I would like on it, he tried to give a little back. Always been blessed. All the things I've done, I don't know how they've done them. I think someone is looking after me. It's impossible to make gambling pay. The bookmakers always win. And if you're winning, they'll not allow you to win. The only way to beat them is do something like Yellow Sam. The only chance you have. And then, zip, no more.
Majority of racetracks, the market is very weak. And for an investment of £2,000 at some place like Nottingham or Catterick, you can drive a horse from 2 to 1 down to even money, which saves the betting shop operators something in the region of £500,000. This morning I told you that I fancied the French filly Golden Opinion, and I thought that 2 to 1 would be a reasonable price about her. Now there's a racecourse rumour that she's been injured coming over on the plane. So she drifted out to 3 to 1, and I went in and had £10,000 on her, 30,000 to 10. I never listened to racecourse rumours. That's at the moment, there's no common ground between racing and the bookmakers, and racing is just steadily going skint. Now, I think the only solution is for all organisations to unite within racing and get their fair share, which they're not getting at the moment.
What advice would you give to punters?
Well, I suppose I'd advise them not to be having those Yankee bets and doubles and trebles. It's hard enough to back a winner, isn't it, John?
But how do you make it pay? By down the years, you've been successful. Very few people have been. What is your secret?
I just couldn't tell you. Luck, I suppose.
No, it's not that. It's more than that.
Well, I work hard at it. I just don't come to the races and back. I work hard at the farm.
How many horses, say, a week will you back?
I suppose I back 20.
And do you not back horses if they're under the price that you think they should be? Does the price make a big difference to you?
Well, it does, yeah. You have to get value for your money. You know, you go skint very easily if you take on the odds.
Now, people who say, Barney, you're on the inside, you train horses at Newmarket, that you know things that the average punter doesn't know. How much does that come into it?
I don't think it comes into it at all. I usually make up my mind on my own judgment, seeing the horses running. I don't care. I don't think it makes any difference where you live. I think you'd be far better living outside Newmarket.
You've got very strong opinions of bookmakers. Do you think they're giving punters a square deal? First of all, on the racecourse.
Yeah, you know, yeah, there is. Yeah, they get a good deal on the racecourse. They do, yeah.
Now, in betting shops, Barney, what chance has the punter got, especially with a 10% tax?
Zero. Zero. He might as well just take his money and burn it out on the street. You can't win and pay 10% tax. Well, you know, we went to take off and we couldn't make it, so that the pilot tried to abort, and we ran into a hedge, and then there were 4 big trees coming up, so we tried to miss them, and we landed in a sort of a river or a dike.
Yeah.
And we were lucky.
I tell you, it sounds as if you got a hell of a shot.
Yeah.
It must have done. Now, you actually landed in a dike that was full with water.
That's right.
And I understand Jimmy Quinn, I mean, we shouldn't laugh about this, but he can't swim. What happened then?
Well, he landed on my back, and I was trying to swim out of it, so he got out anyhow.
He got out?
Yeah.
What sort of speed were you going when you had to abort? Was it literally at takeoff?
Yeah, we were up and, yeah, it was a takeoff, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a frightening experience.
And how far did you actually come down when you realised it was not going to take off?
Well, it happened so quick, you know. Yeah. The only thing that I noticed was that if there had been a horse today running called God, you know, there was a big tip for him. I never heard him mentioned as often. So, you know, I looked today, was there anything like that, but there wasn't, so.
You'll be going to Mass in the morning, I think.
Well, I think so.
Well, what about, listen, it's good to see you here, and you've made it. By the way, did you fly up or drive up, just a matter of interest?
Well, you know, I flew up because, you know, it's like breaking the pain barrier. Yeah. You know, if you wouldn't go back today, I shouldn't really be here, but if you wouldn't come back today, I don't think you'd ever fly again.
Curley has a horse running in the 4:30. But Spare Us All hasn't seen a racetrack for 12 months. It's a long shot with overnight odds of 16 to 1. But first returns in betting shops suggest otherwise.
Well, Spare Us All runs in 4:30 at Nottingham. The original price this morning was 16 to 1. It's 11:15. It was reduced to 10 to 1. That indicates there's substantial money going about for that horse in the early morning prices.
On-course betting doesn't start until just before the race. But when Barney Curley runs a horse, the bookies take notice. He's a gambler as well as an owner. But Barney isn't betting today. He's here to see what happens to the odds against Spare Us All winning. He suspects the market is being rigged. Spare Us All opened at 12 to 1, but they've crashed down. 5 to 1 or 4s is all you can get now. But it's not the racegoers who are betting heavily. Agents from Britain's leading high street bookies are here, and they've money to spend to reduce odds on horses which might win. This man is from Ladbrokes, Britain's biggest bookmaker. Only he knows which horses his firm wants to win or lose. Spare Us All did, finishing 6th. Curley is furious.
It's a complete farce. You know, I'm just looking for the betting ring inspector now. There was no money struck. Horse went from 12 to 1 to 5 to 1, no money bet on it in between.
It's a mystery. There's a concerted move to cut the price. In fact, people that were offering 12s and were happy to do so, in fact, I had a little bit of 12s, were then offering 5s with nothing happening in between. 24 runners, you know, it was peculiar. Horse hadn't run for a year.
There was no money at all. A complete charade. There'd have to be something called into racing like the gaming board. Like the gaming board are in charge of the casinos.
This is where you're supposed to complain if you feel you've had a raw betting deal.
Look, I don't know what... Just a second. This has got to do with racing. You are supposed to be looking after that ring. That's a complete farce out there. They don't... You know what I mean?
Mr. Curley, if you want to come and have a word with us, will you come over to the wing?
You know, I have said to the Jockey Club before, they have to do something about this on-course market, etc.
Curley is saying that these men who work for Ladbrokes have used their financial muscle unfairly to manipulate the odds on the course so that their employers pay out less to the punters in the betting shops. These men are Jockey Club security officers. The Jockey Club runs racing in Britain.
Can you tell me what happened? I've got nothing to say to you. It's a personal matter.
The betting intelligence officer before this had happened had gone home, so I'm sure they'll inform him tonight of what happened. It's just a bad business. It happens every day of the week.
Curley's just coming over here. Barney Curley's just coming over.
You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
You have that Matt Chapman who owes everybody. He's on sparking it off all morning. Just
explain what's the problem.
The problem is casting reflections on me. You never were a rider. You know nothing about racing.
Absolutely nothing
you
to do
shouldn't
with
even have a job. It has got something because you shouldn't be here.
The horse
you
has
have
drifted.
No
He was in the paper somewhere. He's
drifted,
on shot.
Drifted. That's right. He has drifted. That's right. He ran exactly like a horse I ran a fortnight or 3 weeks ago at Plumpton.
Would you not think it's slightly strange then?
No. I don't. All you do is talk rubbish on this. You have people there, Mark Chapman or whatever. You know,
shouldn't the stewards look into it?
Of course, the stewards have looked into it.
Shouldn't they look in the betting patterns to see
Of course,
what's
the
happened?
stewards have looked into it. Yes, of course, the stewards. They're already looking into it.
We agree. We
right?
agree. It wasn't the soft ground which you said. I thought it was.
It couldn't have been the soft ground. He's beaten too far out. Well, that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I don't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that.
What if you contribute to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can. Yes. I have contributed for 25 years here to racing. Now we have ended up in a situation buying a racehorse. You lose 80% of your money overnight. You are promoting a farce. Nobody ever says the truth.
But are you saying, Barney, because the horse drifts out from odds on to 11 to 4 and touches 3 to 1, the stewards should do nothing?
Of course, yes, of course the stewards should.
The exchanges, the bookmakers can show who laid it, who backed against it.
I wasn't involved.
Fine,
that's one thing for sure.
Fine, absolutely fine.
I wasn't involved.
It'll all be revealed, so you should welcome what we're saying for the image of racing.
You should not. It is the image of racing. You are downgrading racing, calling out for inquiries for Scotland.
You agree it should be an inquiry. You said that yourself.
But they will have an inquiry, and they had an inquiry.
And at Portman Square, look at the betting patterns.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
We agree. Of course.
We agree, Barney. You've done nothing wrong.
No, we don't agree. No, you're always, to keep your name, John, you're always up things, right? You are. You're a farce, and so is he. He knows nothing about racing.
This man was a brave man over jumps, whatever else.
Brave man. He was a underachiever and knows nothing.
He was a good jockey. Now leave him out.
Right. The show's over, boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, let's hope
there we go.
Let's hope this inquiry. You want an inquiry. The public wants an inquiry. They're applauding you there. Good for you. Good for you. We're all in agreement here.
We're not in agreement, John.
There should be an inquiry.
No, you're opening up this. Don't you worry. The Jockey Club are well organised. You get off with nothing. They have a camera up the backside of the horses. Never mind.
Nobody's saying he wasn't trying out there. Paul Maloney did all he could. He's totally in the clear. Paul Maloney did everything he could on the horse.
Nobody knows. Nobody's as disappointed as me.
No, fair point.
Everybody's saying it's the ground. It's not the ground.
Fair
you
point.
couldn't be beat so far out.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, stop you talking rubbish, Luke, on the thing. And that Chapman, you know, this is a challenge. You should investigate before you're calling out prices. Bookmakers' prices on this channel, right?
Yes.
You couldn't have 2 bananas to a banana with the bookmakers. Somebody's taking something into their pocket to call out the prices of bookmakers.
Barney, could we ask you one question, a personal question? Did you back the horse yourself?
No.
Why not?
I was afraid.
Of?
Well, after the horse running bad at Plumpton, some of the horses are not right.
I see, yes, yeah.
Some of the horses are not right, running diabolical. The horse at Plumpton pulled up at the same stage, ran the same sort of thing, and he was favoured. There is something in the yard, everybody knows that.
Of course, yeah. That's a fair point. I think we're in agreement, Barney.
No, we're not in agreement, John.
About the inquiry we are.
Well, we are, we're in that, but you know as well as I'm standing here that there will be an inquiry.
Yeah, good. And I'm sure you'll be exonerated. Sure you'll be exonerated. You've nothing to worry about. You've done nothing wrong.
I wish I could have an even million with you. I'd be exonerated.
In the morning, when the moon is at its rest, you will find me at the time I love the best, watching rainbows play on sunlight, pools of water, eyes from cold nights in the morning. 'Tis the morning of my life. In the daytime I will meet you as before. You will find me waiting by the ocean floor, building castles in the shifting sand, in a world that no one understands. In the morning, 'tis the morning of my life. 'Tis the morning of my life. In the morning of my life, the minutes take so long to drift away. Please be patient with your life. It's only morning and you still to live your day. In the evening, I will fly you to the moon, to the top, right hand corner of the ceiling in my room, where we'll stay until the sun shines another day, to swing on clotheslines. May I be your name. 'Tis the morning of my life. 'Tis the morning of my life. In the morning, in the morning, in the morning.